How's it going, YouTube? Dong here. In this video, we're going to talk about how much time you should dedicate to learn to code every single day. I got a really interesting question from one of my subscribers that said, hey, I heard a lot of news from other YouTubers that you have to do a lot of sacrifices. You had to sacrifice to going out, you had to sacrifice, spending time with your friends and stuff like that. And then obviously that sparked up a little bit of a conversation. So in this video, what I wanted to share with you is some of the ways that really helped me to learn to code and, most importantly, get to the point where I was actually competent at it. So a big mistake that a lot of people will make when starting out is they just go gung-ho, right? A lot of people will go gung-ho, they're really motivated, they want to make a change in their life. So they're going to they're going to do, 4 hours a day. They're going to sacrifice on their sleep. They're going to sacrifice on going out with their friends. But a lot of people, it works for some people, right? It does work for some people. But for the majority of the people, they end up getting burnt out. They end up, getting frustrated. And they end up quitting at the end of the day. And I don't want that to happen to you. So ultimately, what's the solution to this? So let me give you a background on my personal situation. So when I started out, I was honestly doing it for the money, right? As most people do, right? Like, unless you're passionate about coding, you're doing it for the benefits. You're doing it because you want to get paid well. You're doing it because you want to, work for a big tech company. You're doing it because you want more freedom. You want to spend more time with your children. You want to be able to work remote, right? So if you're coming from that place, then the ability to build interesting shit is not something that you're actively considering. Obviously, this is going to be really important in order for you to succeed in the long run, but it's not the be-all, end-all, right? It's going to make things interesting, rather. Like, the ability to build cool things is definitely really, really cool, right? But it's not going to get you up in the morning. So let's get right into how I solved it. So I went through the same thing that I mentioned earlier on. Because I would graduated during COVID. There was not much to do. So what I decided to do is I'd spend 8 hours a day just coding. But what happened is it never worked out for me, right? I would get into these bouts of inconsistencies, right? So what would happen is, I would be consistent one day, work 8 hours, and then the next day I'd get demotivated. I'd stop for like a week, then I'd start again, and then I'd stop for a week, and then I'd start again. And then I ended up really not getting the progress that I really wanted and wasting about 6 months of my life. And of course, I don't want that to happen to you. So what changed? What helped me to stop this behavior? Well, ultimately, I read a book called The Slight Edge, and I do recommend that you guys pick it up because it is a really, really good book. I'm going to put a link to the Amazon link in the description below. So basically, to summarize The Slight Edge, there's one main concept. Small actions compounded over time make a radical difference. That's basically the extent of the book, right? It's all about the compound effect, right? And this really was a tick in my mind. And it's like, yeah, that's the reason why. That is the solution, right? So why is this small actions compounded over time? Why is it important, and why should you do that instead of, working really, really hard and, working 8 hours a day? Is because, like I said before, it's just not sustainable unless you're that type of personality that can maintain it, right? The reason why the slight edge works and the reason why you should take small actions compounded over time that make a radical difference is it's a lot more digestible. Now, I'm telling about small actions compounded over time, make a radical difference, but what is that? It's basically, you're going to do a small action that goes towards your goals. And you're going to keep taking that action every single day until it becomes habit. And then from there you can increase the amount of effort that you put in once you established that habit. Because it's all about momentum, right? If you study momentum, like in physics, an object that is not in motion is going to be a lot harder to start than an object that's already in motion. And you can apply the same thing when it comes to coding. So what you want to do is you want to start slow, right? Set a timer. Try to get as much focused work done, whether that's watching a tutorial, whether that's building a personal project, whether that's, whether that's watching a Udemy course, right? Doesn't really matter. Set a timer, do deep focused work for as long as you can, right? Once you start to get distracted, your mouse is pulling towards YouTube or Facebook or Reddit, it doesn't really matter. Then you stop the timer, right? You stop the timer, and that's going to be your benchmark. That's going to be your benchmark that you're going to start. And what you're going to do is for 30 days, you're going to do that amount of coding for 30 days, nonstop, even on the weekends, right? And what's this going to do for you is this going to become a habit for you, right? So it's even better that, and I actually did this, it's even better that you you make it a habit. So what I do is when I was unemployed and I didn't have a job, I would come home from my lifeguard job. I was working full time, 9 to 5, right? I'd get home and I start coding for 30 minutes, right? And after that 30 minutes, I would do something fun that I'd like to do, right? So I'd watch my favorite show, a Netflix show, and what this is doing for you is it's really helping you to get that reward center going, right? And this is really gonna trick your brain into thinking like, if I do this like really hard coding stuff, I'm gonna get a really good reward at the end. Because that's basically what your brain is all about. It's assessing like risk and reward and whether this action is going to be beneficial, right? So why does this work? Why is this better than taking massive action, right? The reason is all of these actions that are compounded over time, you might end up doing more work than you would have been if you did it inconsistently, right? So let me give you an example. Let's just say that you did what I told you to do earlier in the video, and let's just say that you had 30 minutes, right? You could work 30 minutes uninterrupted, without fail, every single day. So 30 times 7 is going to be, I'm not that good at math, so 210, right? So you get done 210 in a week, and then that means that you get 420 and then 840 in a month, right? You do that 30 minutes, so you have 840 minutes of work every single month, right? So let's just say that you take the other one, which is you take 8 hours, but you're really inconsistent, right? You take 8 hours, you take a 2-hour break, and then you do another 8 hours like 2 weeks later, right? Even though the 840 minutes is a lot less, over time it starts to pass it, right? And you start to get more work done. And then you don't take into account the momentum that you have, right? So after these 30 days, maybe you decide to challenge yourself and say, you know what? I did a good job. I'm going to do 35 minutes, right? So you do 35 minutes, and then slowly over time, you start to do more, and more, right? Now, why should you do this rather than doing the other way around? Well, personally for me, I found that coding to be really, really boring, right? So, I mean, especially with like lead code and algorithms, I hated it. I hated those lead code and algorithm problems that were asked in the interview, but I had to do them, right? So I used a slight edge to really get myself to the point where I was competent by it. And I do that by, spending 30 minutes a day and just solving one algorithm problem. It doesn't matter if it was easy or if it was hard or if it was a medium problem. I just solved one problem a day. Then after 30 days, I bumped that up to 2, right? I maybe solve 2 easy problems, and then I bump it up to say 1 medium problem, and then 1 easy problem, and then I do a hard problem, and suddenly I was really, really good at those algorithm problems, right? So that's really how you approach this, how much time you should learn how to code. I really do believe that you shouldn't really count the hours that you're spending and just focus on generating that positive momentum in order to get you to the point where you're doing it on a consistent basis and you're making it a habit. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what you thought, because I bought a new camera and I'm just testing it out right now. Let me know how the audio was. Let me know how the camera quality was. And without further ado, make sure you like, comment, subscribe again, and I'll see you in the next video.